So the other day, I responded to this article, Dear Democrats, Beware Dragon Voters. It's written by a progressive, a political psychologist. I didn't even know there was such a thing as political psychology, but sure, why not? And it's an analysis of why Democrats, maybe people who had voted for Obama in the past or voted for Clinton in 2016, why they are leaving the party to vote for Donald Trump and what Democrats should do about it. And I'm going to be honest, I was a bit skeptical when I first came across the article, but it's a fairly decent analysis. I actually agreed with a lot of the things in it. And I ended up getting into a little DM conversation with Karen, who is the author of the article. Karen apparently runs a Facebook group for progressives and talking about these sorts of issues. And after I did the video analysis, she shared it out to her group, and I got a couple of questions. I got a question from one of her group members that I thought we could take some time to respond to because, frankly, it's just much easier for me to respond in person via one of these videos than it is to kind of like write everything out. And I definitely have lots of things I want to say in relation to these questions. But before we get into that, one quick order of business that we need to take care of. Listen, folks, I'm trying to grow the channel, grow my number of subscribers. If you like what I'm doing, click that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, give it a thumbs up. Another thing you can do to help support my content is to become a member on Subscribestar. Now, Subscribestar comes with a number of perks, and one of those perks is you get a shout out in one of my videos at any single level that you become a member at. So today I have one shout out to give. Diane, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your support. All right, let's get back into it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to actually read the email that I got from this person. I'm not going to reveal who they are because really that's not the point, but I'm going to read the email and then I'm going to respond as best I can to these questions that I got. And I see this as something where this person is trying to have a conversation in good faith. Listen, I know, folks, that I can get a little bit snarky in these videos sometimes. I know that I can. It is just way too easy. I believe, generally speaking, people have both dark and light attributes of their personality. I absolutely have a darker side of me where I'm just like, rah, and I'm like, I love debating and I love arguing and I love fighting. And it's something that like fires all the pleasure centers of my brain. I love a good debate. I would have been a fantastic lawyer. Nothing makes me happier than to really just go for like the hit to the throat or whatever. But so that's the darker side of myself. The lighter side is as what I think is a reasonably well-adjusted adult, my strong preference when you're having serious political conversations is to behave like a goddamn adult. And to not hurl insults and to not go for the cheap gut ya moments and the things like that. And so when I'm actually having an adult political conversation with someone, and frankly, folks, I do not perceive the videos I make on this channel to be adult political conversations. I don't perceive Twitter to be an adult political conversation. That's about the gotcha moments and about the snark and about the fun, and I can get into that too. But we're having adult time right now, okay? So I believe this question was asked in good faith, and I'm going to answer it in good faith. So here's what they wrote. Hi, Karlyn. She left out an L in my name, but we'll forgive her for that. I follow Karen's Smart Politics page and watched the video you posted recently that Karen shared. I listened with interest to what you described. I consider myself a moderate Democrat who abhors Trump, but I have a nagging sense that I, and Democrats in general, really don't understand and appreciate the perspective of Trump voters and are definitely getting a lot wrong. And I absolutely agree. We're going to pause right there. I absolutely agree with this person. Listen, when I started down the path of listening to voices on the more conservative or even just more moderate side of the spectrum, it was because I didn't want Donald Trump to get reelected, folks. That was the whole point of it. And my perspective was that we as Democrats, because I was still a Democrat at the time, we as Democrats need to understand why people are voting for Donald Trump if we're going to be able to defeat him. If we don't understand then why people are voting for him in the first place, then how could we possibly defeat him? And that was what started me down the path of listening to voices I thought I would disagree with, and it opened up this whole new world of perspective. And I absolutely believe that this is correct, that a lot of Democrats are refusing, downright refusing to consider voices that are not part of the far left. Now, this person says they're a moderate Democrat. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that. I think a lot of people in the Democratic Party right now think they're moderate Democrats, but really they're far more left than they realize, because over time what's happened, listen, like I became a Democrat when I was 18, right? So over 20 years ago now, because I'm almost 40, believe it or not. And so when I became a Democrat, like the party was in a much different place than it is now, because slowly over time what's happened is the party has moved further and further and further and further and further and further to the left. And it happened so slowly that I didn't realize what was going on, because I was living life, man. I was building a career, I was building a business, I was writing a book, I was serving my clients, I was doing all this other stuff. I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the slow inching towards the left and getting more and more extreme all the time. So while this person may think they're a moderate Democrat, are they really? I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that. But I do think that, generally speaking, people in the Democratic Party are getting a lot wrong because they're not listening with an open mind to voices they disagree with. You can listen to voices you disagree with and not change your values and not change your positions on policy and not change what you care about. But it is an eye-opening experience to go down that road. Okay, let's keep going. Your explanations helped a lot. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. But I was left with 2 questions. Karen suggested I email you directly. If you would kindly respond, I will share on the Smart Politics page, and hopefully others can benefit too. If you'd prefer to refer me to other content that's already been shared that is publicly available, that would be great, but I prefer not to register. I don't know what she means by register. All my content is available on YouTube. It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can just go watch it, or in other places too, but YouTube is the main place that I'm posting content at the moment. But I really do appreciate her reaching out. And like I said, I think this is actually a question in good faith. And this is how it should work, folks. If I see you guys in the comments lambasting this person, like you and I are going to have a conversation, because this is how it should work. Curious people reaching out in good faith to understand different perspectives and different positions on the issues. All right, so let's get into her questions. Number 1. What are the specific issues with the insane far left, as you describe it? Admittedly, I should come up with probably a much less divisive description of it. I just don't know what that is. Honestly, if you have suggestions, leave a comment, because I don't know what that is. There seems to be a focus on the right's disdain. Okay, I'm going to read that again. What are your specific issues with the insane far left, as you describe it, that seems to be the focus of the right's disdain? Okay, this is a good question. So what she's asking essentially is, what issues do people on the right have with the people on the left? What are the biggest things? And listen, I'm not on the right. I'm literally right in the center. If you look at my political compass test, and I did a video about it on this channel, I am literally right in the center and leaning a little bit left. But I'm going to try to explain to the best of my understanding what the issues are that people on the right have with people on the left. And we're going to start off with, let's just start off with the First Amendment, shall we? Let's start off there. So I think that the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are 2 big ones, because when I went to CPAC, one of the things that surprised me, and it shouldn't have, in retrospect, it should not have. I don't know why I hadn't in my head put 2 and 2 together, but the biggest emphasis at CPAC of this past year that I experienced anyhow was a focus on individual liberty. On individual liberty, individual freedom, individual responsibility. Now, it was a group of people that, I had very different opinions on a lot of topics than the group of people at CPAC, but at the end of the day, where we could agree was, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. You can live your life the way you want to live it. Just don't tell me how to live my life. And I think when just big picture, when we're looking at broader issues, that's probably the crux of a lot of issues that people on the right have with people on the left, is they feel like people on the left are trying to tell them how to live their lives. They're trying to tell them what type of language you can use and what type of language you can't use. They're trying to tell them what types of religions you can follow, what ones are good and what ones are bad. And they certainly have a hierarchy of religion and belief. And a lot of them don't even believe anything anymore. And they're trying to demonize religion on the right. Now, I say that, and I want to be very clear, I'm not a Christian. I'm not, but I absolutely believe there is an abhorrence of belief from not everyone, but a good number of those on the left. As even a non-Christian person that is spiritual, I felt that. What else? So I think there's also a tendency towards anti-capitalism from people on the left towards people on the right. And this is a big one. Then this is not just about, this is, when you build a small business, when you start something, when you create something from the ground up, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into that thing, you work day in and day out to make that thing successful. That is foundational to individual liberty and individual freedom and taking responsibility for yourself. Whereas people on the left are saying, okay, if you build a really successful business, we're going to get a piece of it. You have to give a piece of it to society. You have to give us your income so that we can distribute it across people who haven't done that work. I think there's also an emphasis on social welfare, so those types of social programs, things like that. Now, again, I actually believe in some social entitlement programs. I believe that we should have a helping hand for people that are struggling, helping them to get back on their feet, teaching them how to be successful in the real world, giving them the tools to succeed. I absolutely believe I am more liberal on that side of things. I also believe that I don't know exactly what the answer is to healthcare, but I think that government does have a role in making sure that healthcare is affordable and accessible. I don't think we've figured that out yet, but we also aren't talking. And that's part of the thing, is like people on both sides are not talking about it, and that's why it still continues to be this nagging problem. So I tend to be more liberal on some of these issues. However, on the right, it's all about personal empowerment. If you want something, you go out and build it. You go out and create it. You figure out a way to do it. And I also think there's a sense from people on the left that, people on the right, they don't know what it's like to struggle. They don't know what it's like to be poor. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. There are so many people in the world who have started from very humble positions, who have worked hard and diligently and have built something, and not everyone comes from a wealthy family. Not everyone was given $1 million to start a business, right? I wasn't given $1 million to start a business. When I started full-time with my business, I had more in the bank than most. I had maybe like $12,000 in the bank, I think. So it wasn't, I wasn't starting from nothing, but I wasn't starting with a lot. I had a little tiny bit of a safety net because I had saved and had planned to do my business full time. But, there wasn't a lot there. That might sound like a lot of money to some people, but that doesn't actually go that far when you have a mortgage to pay and you have bills to pay and you're trying to start a business. It really doesn't go all that far. So I admittedly was in a better position than a lot of people, but I wasn't in that great of a position, and I still made it work because I worked hard and I did my thing. Now, I think that coming in and trying to take that away, or telling people, this is another part of this too, telling people flat out, you can't succeed no matter what you do because society is weighted against you. Society is constantly working against you. And that happens with women. That happens with people of color, where they are told constantly by people on the left, you have all these big brother systems working against you and nothing you ever do will overcome it. And that's just bullshit, guys. That's absolute bullshit. I tell people all the time when I'm coaching them, especially women in organizations, I hear this constantly when I'm working with groups is, Karlyn, how do you overcome being a woman in an organization? And what I tell them is, stop worrying about being a woman. Stop worrying about how they're going to treat you because of your gender. The minute that you stop worrying about it is the minute that you can overcome the challenge, because there are real challenges to overcome, but that doesn't mean that people can't overcome them when they take responsibility for what they are contributing. So those are a bunch of issues that I think the right has with the left. Is the right thinks that the left just wants people to take care of them. And I think now, especially when we're looking at coronavirus, what is the left doing? The left is saying government should pay people to stay home all day, every day, and do nothing. And it's actually more lucrative right now to be on unemployment than it is to have a job. And that's from the left. The right is saying, come on, guys, like this is like they're okay, I think, with a little safety net because of what's going on in the world. But they're also saying at some point we have to go back to work. At some point, we need to take responsibility for ourselves and not rely on the government to do it for us. And on that, I am absolutely in agreement. I think another big issue is the 2A issue, the gun issue. Listen, the gun issue for me, I never understood it when I was on the left. I've never been one of those people that was in favor of confiscation of guns. I grew up with guns. I had guns in my house. My father was a hunter, and so I knew what it was like to be around guns, and I wasn't particularly scared of them. But I never understood like the 2A people that were like really like out, in full force and like, you'll take it out of my cold dead hands. Never got it until it was explained to me like this. So and I have to thank the people that took the time to explain it and get it through my thick skull. And again, I don't know why I didn't make this connection when I was on the left, but I just didn't. Is they explained it to me like this: Karlyn, if everyday average people have guns in their homes, that protects us from government tyranny. Because a tyrannical government cannot exist in a society in which people have the ability to defend themselves. And also, if a foreign invader comes in, guess what? Everyone's got a gun in their home. So it's going to make it much harder for that foreign invader. And I mean, brass tacks, they also say the Second Amendment protects the First. We have the right to bear arms because we have the right to fight against a tyrannical government, and that protects our First Amendment right to freedom of speech, assembly, religion, press, all of those things. If we didn't have that, then it would be much easier for a tyrannical government to take over. Now, I agree with all of those things. I completely understand all of those things. And if you look at the footage from the 2A protest in Virginia that took place a couple months back. And this was something that Ralph Northam, who's the governor of Virginia, was like, all these white supremacists and Nazis are coming. They were like basically planning for an invading horde to come. So what happened at this 2A protest? A lot of 2A people brought their guns, had very big guns out, and peacefully protested for the entire day, and no one was hurt and nothing really happened because these tend to be very peaceful, law-abiding people. So I think the advice on that one that I would give the left is you have to understand more clearly why they want to protect their guns. And part of the reason that there's kind of a standoff on the gun issue where each side they're going like this is because the right thinks, and I think this is actually correct, if they give an inch to the left, if they give just a little tiny bit, the left is going to try to take a mile. And we've seen that happen over and over and over again, where the right comes to try to compromise, or because I think some of them are inclined to compromise. I think that I see many more open minds on the right than I do on the left right now. So I think they're inclined to try to compromise. They're inclined to have those conversations. But the minute that they do, it's like, boom, left comes in and tries to take 15,000 more things. And we've seen this in the goddamn stimulus packages and how the Democrats have behaved in regards to the stimulus bills that have been passed through the House, where Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats come in and they want all this extra stuff that doesn't actually have anything to do with protecting average everyday Americans and making sure they have the resources they need to get through this crisis. They've loaded all this other crap in there. And so on that note, I absolutely agree with them. So those are just a couple of things that I think that the right has a problem with the left. I probably left a lot of stuff out, but from my perception, those are the biggest things. Let's get to question number 2. What is your understanding of the witch hunt / impeachment, etc. now that you feel you understand the truth and have converted from MSNBC to a Trump supporter? Okay, I need to be very clear about a couple things. 1, I still watch MSNBC. It's like reality TV, man. It's kind of the same with CNN. It's like in this land of make-believe that I now know is land of make-believe, but I still watch it. And I watch Fox News, and I try to get my news from like a variety of sources now because I think that's just it's a much smarter thing to do. So I haven't stopped watching MSNBC. 2, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm as much a Trump supporter as I would say I do not want the Democrats to be in power. I think that I am terrified of what would happen if the Democrats were in power. So I wouldn't say I'm like rah Trump. Now, don't misunderstand. I don't think that everything Trump does is bad. I think Trump has done good things. And I can acknowledge, and I could even acknowledge before, that there are things that Trump has done that I absolutely agree with. But would I go so far as to say I'm like a MAGA hat wearing supporter? No, I wouldn't say that. Am I going to vote for Trump in November? You bet your butt I am. But it's more a vote against the Democrats than it is saying Donald Trump is the best president ever. I think Donald Trump has his benefits. I think there are a lot of things I like about him. There are a lot of things I don't like about him. But given the two options of Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who clearly has dementia and probably, assaulted a woman back in the day, I'm gonna vote for Trump. And Trump has his skeletons too, but I'll take the devil I know over the devil who I think is crazy and is going to try to instill an authoritarian government, okay? But the question is about impeachment. Now, listen, I'm actually working on developing a video right now about like a liberal explains Obamagate. And I'm really just trying to make sure I have my ducks in a row to understand what Obamagate is, because it's like so complicated. But high level on impeachment. I thought impeachment was stupid when it was happening. And when it was happening, I actually believed all the bullshit that MSNBC was peddling about collusion with Russia, because all I was watching was MSNBC and Rachel Maddow almost every single night. Russia. Like, looking back, I'm like, Karlyn, what the hell were you thinking? And, I know that now, but that was what I was watching then. And so I believed in. So my general perception on impeachment when it was going on was, I think Trump deserves to be impeached, but like, I never liked what they were impeaching him for. I was like, this is stupid. Like, if he committed crimes and it's so obvious that he committed crimes, then why aren't they impeaching him for anything that's a crime? And again, this was before I went to the Trump rally. This was still kind of when I was going through my little awakening, as it were. I did not understand at the time why they were impeaching him for something that was not a crime, full stop. If it was so easy to prove, if it was so obvious, if they had so much evidence, then why the hell weren't they impeaching him for a crime? So I thought impeachment was stupid and mishandled from day one. And this is actually when I started getting really pissed off at the Democrats. And it was when I started really questioning things, because I was like, you know what? You guys have been telling me for years and years, this is so obvious and there's so much evidence and we know what happened and blah, 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 blah. You're not charging him with a crime. So I thought it was dumb from the get-go. I thought that the House would probably impeach him because they had the majority, and so that wasn't a surprise. And another reason I thought it was stupid is he was obviously going to get acquitted in the Senate. He was obviously going to get acquitted, because if you run an impeachment, if you're going to impeach a president, listen, man, have some integrity and at least try to make it a bipartisan process. Try to get people from the other team on board. And if you can't get people from the other team on board, then why are you doing it to begin with? Because it's just going to be absolutely divisive for the entire country. And so even when I was a Democrat, even when I was voting for Pete Buttigieg, I was very, very committed to voting for Pete Buttigieg. I was very vocal that I thought impeachment was stupid. I thought it was a big waste of time. I thought it was a waste of resources. I thought the Democrats bungled it from the beginning, and I thought it was going to amount to absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this as well, I still thought that all the Russia shit was real, right? Because guys, and this is for my liberal progressive friends. It's not real. It's not real. I know that MSNBC and CNN has fed us this stuff. I know, because I got fed it too. But now I've looked at more evidence that was not shown on MSNBC and CNN. And I understand that it is not real. It's made up. And I know, if you're still watching, my liberal progressive friends, you're probably experiencing incredible cognitive dissonance right now about this, because people that you have trusted have lied to you. They have lied to you. They have made stuff up. And I know that they've tried to convince you, well, people who think that Obamagate is real, they're conspiracy theorists. They're not conspiracy theorists, man. They're not conspiracy theorists. This is real. The media has betrayed us. The party has betrayed us. And this is my biggest problem with this entire thing. And this is, I think, a really important point to understand, because not everyone who's voting for Trump thinks like me. And that's absolutely true. There are a lot of people that are much more conservative that absolutely are voting for him on policy positions. People like me who are walking away from the Democratic Party are doing it because we've taken a step back. We've looked at a variety of sources. We've looked at the information that's presented to us, and we've said, you lied to us, motherfuckers. And hell hath no fury like a former Democrat scorned. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm in a place right now where I'm like, burn it down. Burn it down. The Democrats didn't learn their lesson in 2016. They doubled down. They continue to act like crazy people. Not all Democrats. I'm not saying every Democrat is a crazy person. I'm not saying everyone on the left is a crazy person. Again, I still fancy myself to be a liberal. I'm not giving up that term. But what I will say is that your media has lied to you. The sources you trust, Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell, all those people, whoever's on CNN, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon. Oh my God, Don Lemon is like the worst, guys. He's the absolute. Brian Stelter is a crazy person. Like, these people all see a very skewed view of reality. Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. It is a very real thing. I don't say that as an insult. I say it because I had it, man. I had it, and it skewed the way I viewed every part of this experience. And now I don't feel like I have it anymore. But I'm still trying to unravel what is true and what is not true. And it is absolutely a process to go back through everything I thought I knew, everything that the media told me was true, and they lied. And listen, the media are just people. They're just people, folks. They're people. They're going to make mistakes. They have not exercised journalistic responsibility and journalistic integrity. And so my recommendation for people on the left is really set aside all the media bullshit for a second. Set aside everything you think you know about Trump supporters being horrible people, about Donald Trump being the worst possible person in the world. Set aside all of that. You can still think that Donald Trump is a bad guy at the end of it. I don't really care. I certainly don't think he's perfect. But just set aside all of that and look at the facts, and look at the facts presented from a variety of sources. That's what you've got to do, because once you get a variety of sources from different perspectives to agree on what the facts were, and you have to remove the interpretation. That's a lot of what the media is doing, is they're not presenting you the facts, they're presenting their interpretation of the facts. Just get down to brass tacks. What actually happened? And look at the big picture, and then look at the stories, how it compares to the stories that the media has told you. I guarantee you, if you do this in good faith, you are going to find out that you have been lied to. And that's my biggest thing. I was lied to. A lot of people were lied to. You've been lied to. You've been lied to by the media. You've been lied to by the party. And that's why they lost me as a voter. That's why they're losing a lot of people like me. And it's kind of even like, even if Joe Biden gets replaced as the nominee at this point, and I actually still do believe he will be, even if he gets replaced, I'm like, no go, man, because, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I ain't gonna get fooled again. I'm done. So those are my answers to the questions. I hope that was helpful. And honestly, I really did try to answer this in good faith as best I could. I probably could have gone on for a lot longer on number one, but I wanted to keep this video some semblance of reasonable. We're already like half an hour. So I'm going to cut it off there. And if anyone has any other questions that they want me to answer, reach out, send me an email, go to drkarlyn.com, fill out the contact form. I do read every single email that I get. I don't always respond to them, but I do read them. And if you have additional questions, I am more than happy to answer them.